What's up, Lost Boys? Here we are for another fantasy football recap video. This week we're going to talk about week 10, look at the standings, and then take a peek at this coming week 11 games because we got some awesome matchups coming in fantasy this week. So let's get right in. We're going to start with our closest game of the week last week, Josh versus Matt. Josh ends up barely winning by a half a point. Came down to the game last night with Green Bay and Philadelphia. Kind of a snooze, as Josh for sure thought he was going to lose the game. He was only up, I think, by about 6 points. Matt had Jordan Love. Josh had Romeo Doubs. Then Romeo Doubs gets injured, and Jordan Love can't get that last push on that final drive. Josh squeaks out a win by half a point to move to 6-4. Matt really needed this win to stay in the playoff race. He falls to 3-7. Kind of a frustrating loss for Matt too. He had just a monster game from Achane. 37 points from your running back, and to still lose. The zero from Garrett Wilson cost him the game, which is frustrating. Been waiting for him to come back from injury. Starts him, gets him zero, and now it's looking like he's out for another 4 weeks. So just brutal injury for Matt, brutal loss for Matt. Josh wins by half a point. So hopefully Matt can get back in the win column. Next game we're going to look at was our game of the week last week. Justin versus Ryan. This one wasn't very close. Ryan beats Justin by 21 points, 151, 130. Ryan's still rolling. He's 7-3, guys. He's 4 games over 500 now. He's making a clear gap to get into the playoffs. His points are decent as well. He's got those 2 quarterbacks, whether it be Daniel Jones, Baker, or Mahomes. His quarterbacks have been great. Drake London's been coming on back-to-back great weeks. I mentioned the Rico Dowdle last week. Still another solid week. If Saquon can get rolling, if Chase Brown can get rolling, I mean, he still has Emeka Buka. Seems like he puts up 20 points every single week. So Ryan's team is looking really good. This week was great for him with his kicker. His kicker gets him 15. Justin, on the other hand, just didn't get enough from his second quarterback. Rodgers only puts up 6. And unfortunately for Justin, A.J. Brown is absolutely killing him this year. Devontae Smith has been the clear-cut better Eagles wide receiver, but because of A.J. Brown's name, Justin has to start them both. So it's just a rough spot for Barreto. Also, it's not helping that his 2 stud running backs are getting vultured. Bijan this week had Algier take not 1 but 2 touchdowns, and James Cook has Josh Allen stealing touchdowns from him as well. So even though Justin's team looks so good on paper, Puka Nacua, James Cook, Bijan Robinson, when they're not getting all the touchdowns that they were earlier in the year, Justin's team kind of falls off a bit. Don't get me wrong, I still like his team. He still has a lot of points, but he loses again this week. He falls to 5-5. Justin needs to get back in the win column. Next, we're going to look at Tim versus Jace. This one was kind of crazy, an upset. Tim puts up 160 points. I think that's maybe his second most point total of the year, backed by his 2 quarterbacks. Jackson Dart, 26 points. Goff, 24 points. Getting 50 points from your 2 QBs is a great way to start the week. And Jameson Williams, 20 points. Number 1 wide receiver on Detroit this week. They were feeding him the ball. So huge start to the week. And then that Chargers game was monstrous for Tim. He needed a big game, and he got pretty much the best case scenario. Ladd McConkey gets him 18. Vidal gets him 17. So huge thing for Tim. Jace. I'm sorry. Jace, like every week, he needs huge games from his quarterbacks, and he didn't break 20 points from either guy. They didn't have awful games, but like I mentioned, that Green Bay Philly game butchered Jace. 12 points for Jalen Hurts. He just can't do it. Josh Allen, 19, but you expect a little bit more when they're going against the Dolphins and they're playing catch up the whole time. He still can only get 19 points. To lose a game when your running back starts the day with 48 points, because that's exactly what happened. Jace had woke up Sunday morning and had Jonathan Taylor get him 48 points. Tim assumed he was done. I would have assumed I was done if based on a 48-point explosion. And then to lose that game has got to be so frustrating for Jace. I mean, he starts De'Ami Brown. He had some guys on bye. He had Rashid Rice on bye. He had George Pickens on bye. So it was a bye week for Jace. But still, you could feel it with no Tucker Kraft. His second best player has been Troy Franklin the last 2 weeks, which is not good for Jace. But Jace takes a loss and he falls to 5-5, which is crazy. Next, we're gonna look at Denny versus Cass. Jace falls to 5-5. He's kind of been on the downward spiral. The opposite of that has been Denny. You know, Denny, 6-4, 186 points this week. His team is rolling. His quarterback, Stafford's maybe kind of the hottest quarterback in the league right now, just dealing every single week. Gibbs, another monster game, 36 points. Trey McBride is finally getting in the end zone. As long as Cardinals keep Brissett at quarterback, which is looking like they are, McBride is the #1 tight end in fantasy. So Denny's rocking, and Alec Pierce has sneakily become an awesome fantasy player. I mean, Daniel Jones is throwing him that deep ball, and he's coming down with it all the time. Denny's team's looking pretty good. Cass really needed this victory. His points aren't the best right now, and he just gets mollywopped. J.J. McCarthy, Sam Darnold. You know, Sam Darnold had been rolling. This week, not so much. I mean, they scored 44 points. 44 points, and Darnold got Cass 4. So having the defense score 2 is brutal. Justin Jefferson he just hasn't gotten rolling this year. You know, it's the quarterback and a bunch of other things, but it's frustrating. Cass's running backs did really well. 24 points from Kyron, 17 from Josh Jacobs. I mean, he had almost 20 from Kittle, ETN. I mean, his flex guys and running backs did awesome. His stud wide receivers, but mainly his quarterbacks, just got absolutely destroyed this week. Cass falls to 4-6. Denny's rolling 6-4. And last for the week, we're going to look at Pat versus Cal. Cal gets the huge win, moves to 3-7, still in last place, but still huge win. I mean, these guys, this was an impressive game. Pat scored the least points. Cal scored the second least points in the league. So, whatever. But still, a dub's a dub, and a dub might get you away from doing stand-up comedy. Caleb Williams, 25 points, good for Cal. He did get a goose egg from DJ Moore, so that kind of had to scare Cal a little bit. But for the most part, I mean, it wasn't really much going on either of these two teams. Pat's getting not a lot. If he doesn't get the garbage time, fourth quarter crap from Bo Nix, then it's a rough spot for him to be in. You know, Pat's wide receivers this week did him no favors, 2 and 5 points. And Pat really needs Bucky Irving to come back so they can get a stud running back in there. Rashard White's been good, but he needs his third-round pick to come back. In general, though, Pat really needed this win. He falls to 5-5. You know, Pat had won 5 in a row, then he lost last week, and then he lost this week, so he's now 5-5. Real quick, we're going to look at the standings. Ryan's the sole first-place team at 7-3. Then you have a 3-way tie at 6-4. Second place, Josh. Third place, Denny. Fourth place, Tim. All separated by points. Those are your 4 playoff teams currently right now. And then you have another 3-way tie at 5-5. Jace, Justin, Pat. Those are also separated points. Now, the good news for Jace, as I seem to mention every week, is he has a monster 160-point lead on Justin in points, 270-point lead on Pat on points. So he's going to have to, he's not going to lose a tiebreaker there, but he has to somehow get in the victory column. That's why his loss to Tim this week was so monstrous, because he not only is he has Tim destroyed in points. He destroyed in points, but the record is coming back to bite him in the ass. So then we have Cass sitting solely in 8th at 4-6. He's still in the hunt. He's still only 2 games out right now. And then the real drama, 9-10, 2 3-7 teams, Learning Computer and Cal. Now, these 2 teams, Cal by far has the least points. He's 1282, but you know, he's trying. He's 70 points away from Matt. So he has, I think, 7 more weeks to make up those 70 points or make a couple games in the standings. We'll see. All right, next we're going to look at next week's games. I think it's week 12. No, Week 11 games. Our game of the week, our two playoff teams, Josh versus Denny. Denny's been rolling lately. Josh won this past week as well. So Denny's quarterbacks, Justin Herbert, Stafford. I mean, here's Denny's situation. He has the best tight end in the league. He has the second best running back in the league. He has the best wide receiver in the league. And he has the best quarterback in the league. I mean, those guys are just carrying him right now. And anything else he gets from the rest of his team is kind of just bonus right now. So Denny's team is rocking. Josh gets most of his guys back this week from buys. He gets his CeeDee Lamb, Amon-Ra, Davante Adams trio at wide receiver. We'll see if Davante plays. He kind of hurt himself last game. Romeo Doubs also might be out. We'll see if Travion Henry, if Ramondre comes back. But this game's going to be really, really close. I think we're going to know a lot from the Thursday night game. Patriots, Josh has a lot of money, a lot of stuff invested in the Patriots. So we'll see. I'm going to give the edge to Josh this week slightly just because I think his wide receivers are really, really good. And I think his tight end, Bowers versus McBride, can match up with McBride, which has been a big advantage for Denny. But we'll see. Going to be a close one. Next, going to go with another awesome game, Llama versus Jace. Llama's been rocking, man. He's been rocking, and he's in first place, and his team's all coming back from bye week, so he is ready to rock towards the playoffs. Jace needs a dub. Jace has to bring all his boys back. He gets all his boys back, except for one, the best player in fantasy this year, Jonathan Taylor on bye. Ryan gets a huge break this week with Jonathan Taylor on bye. And I don't know what Jace is going to do to replace him, maybe Jubba Bubba Bubba's. But that's just a huge letdown. I mean, he got him 48 points this week. He still lost. So I'm going to give you the edge to Ryan this week. Unfortunately for Jace, when you lose the best player in fantasy on bye week, you're going to take a hit. All right, we got Tim, our fourth and final playoff team right now, going against Cass. This is always a good matchup every single year. I'm actually going to give the edge to Cass this week. I think his running backs can keep up with the Christian McCaffrey train, and the wide receivers are pretty close, but I think JJ finally has a breakout. I just have a feeling it's in a dome. It's in Minnesota. I think JJ gets some good work in. Darnold and the Rams, that's going to be a shootout as well. But Tim's quarterbacks, Goff and Philly, that's also going to be a shootout. We'll see if Jackson Dart, what he does. He got questionable with the concussion, so if he plays, it's big for Tim. I'm going to give the slight edge to Cass, though. We got Justin versus Cal this week. Cal got a huge win last week. Any win he can get is so monstrous. Justin has to have the win, though. And I mentioned that shootout with Detroit and Philly. Justin's going to get the benefit of that. He does have two of the Philly wide receivers, and I think that's going to be the difference. Justin's team's really good. He just needs his running backs to stop getting vultured at the goal line. And his quarterback, Rodgers, who was his weak point last week, Rodgers is going against the Cincinnati defense, which is the worst defense in the history of the NFL. It's in Pittsburgh. That Rodgers is going to score 25 points. So I think Justin takes this week, and I don't think it's very close. And last but not least, we got Learning Computer versus Titty Tits, Pat versus Matt. Both guys coming off an L last week. Pat's still in the playoff hunt. Matt's still technically in the playoff hunt as well. Both guys they have to win this week, especially Matt if he wants to stay in the playoff hunt. Both guys have those Cincinnati wide receivers, Chase with Pat, Higgins with Matt. And because I like both of these teams, unfortunately for Pat, I'm going to give the edge to Matt. I think his A-chain, I think his Javonte Williams, I think his running backs are just going to be a little bit too much for Pat. And unless Chase just completely destroys T. Higgins this week, which very well might happen, I think Matt with DK scoring a lot of points against the Bengals. T. Higgins is going to get a lot of points in that game. I'm just going to give the slight edge to Matt this week. So that is all the games for this coming week, guys. I hope you guys had a great weekend. Go Chiefs. Go Bears. Love you guys.